Whiskey for Beginners, a thoroughly amateur production. If you haven't figured it out yet, that is exactly what this is. I'm trying out calling the channel Whiskey for Beginners by a whiskey hick. We'll see how that goes. Today's question for beginners in whiskey is, what are whiskey expressions? I had never heard of such when I first started drinking whiskey back in September of 2021. And I rapidly found out that yes, it's a term that we use. There's a lot of jargon that's useless. You know, when you say this is a good pour, when you mean this is a good whiskey, that's jargon and I have no use for it. When you insist on speaking of a cask like a European instead of a barrel like an American. And by the way, you don't have to have the same pronunciation I do. It's a barrel to me. I'm a Texas hick. I'm a redneck from way back. You think Loretta Lynn was far back in the hills? I come from further back than that. And that's a whole long story. But you know, there are times when the only term that will work is a technical term. But usually you can use normal English and be a ton more clear and get across a ton more information to somebody who's new to the thing. You know, you hear people talking about, this cost me $50, and at that price point, well, no. It's not a price point. It's a price. A price point is that particular point in pricing it where you get the most sales. You move the price up much higher. Yeah, I know. I'm blocking the light. Let me do this way. You move the price up much higher, you lose sales. You move the price up much lower, and you lose sales. This is the price point where you get the most sales of that particular item. The price on a bottle of whiskey is the price. However, I did not make this video to jump down people's throats who use the jargon. I didn't intend to preach, I just did. Or as some might think, I done quit preaching and gone to meddling. What I want to talk about are different whiskey expressions. Let me get back to that. A particular distillery may produce different whiskeys. For instance, it may produce bourbon and rye. It may produce corn whiskey and single malt whiskey. And by the way, that's two words. It's not single malt, which is one word. It's single malt. And quit talking so fast, y'all. You're dropping out syllables. You're slurring everything. You think I'm bad? There are people who talk so fast, half their syllables aren't even in there. But again, I'm preaching, and that's not my intent. I want to talk about whiskey expressions. Now, the only examples I can show you right now are from Balcones Distilling in Waco, Texas. And it doesn't surprise me that that's where the examples come from. It's my favorite distillery. These are different expressions of corn whiskey. And Balcones makes the best corn whiskey I've ever even heard of. This one over here, which as you can see I drink on a bit, is their Baby Blue corn whiskey. It is 92 proof. It has aged at least 12 months in oak. That's how Balcones puts it. They're idiosyncratic that way. And for a year-old whiskey, look how dark it is. But that's their basic corn whiskey. They proof it down. It's young, and it's delicious. This is True Blue. This is not straight whiskey, the Baby Blue, because it has not aged at least 2 years. This is a straight corn whiskey, meaning it has aged at least 2 years, and also it means that there is no artificial color or flavor. This particular one has aged 42 months, it says on the store pick sticker, which is 3.5 years. And look how dark that is. But this is corn whiskey. Both of them use the same mash bill. Made from roasted blue corn, says the baby blue. Made from roasted blue corn, says the true blue. And I have looked it up, and I have found that both of these come from a mash bill of 100% roasted Texas blue corn. Now, corn whiskey by law has to be at least 80% corn. This is 100% corn. In a certain sense, and if we push too hard on this, we're going to break it. But in a certain sense, this is the corn liquor that my ancestors back in the Appalachians might have made and probably drank anyways, put in a barrel and aged, which is how American barrel-aged whiskey come about. They'd been using barrels to age whiskey in Europe for a long time before bourbon and those came along. We did not invent barrel aging. Don't let the stories about Elijah Craig fool you. That's just marketing. It's not true. It's a pretty story, but it's not true. But originally, American whiskey did not age in the barrel. They shipped it in a barrel. They stored it in a barrel, but that was just to store and just to ship. And somewhere along the line, and there are various possibilities as to who, when, where, why, somewhere along the line, the whiskey got color and flavor from the barrel, and they started asking for the red liquor. And if you hold up a bottle of bourbon and let the light shine through it, you get a distinct redness to it. This, for that matter, is dark enough it gives you red. The true blue, that is. The baby blue, being just a year old, is still the color of some bourbons. That's the Texas climate. That's what you get aging whiskey in Waco. Even in, as the law requires for corn whiskey, either new uncharred barrels or used charred barrels. But I'm trying to get to whiskey expressions, and because I don't have a script that I go by, I don't have a teleprompter, I don't have nothing on paper, nothing on the screen, I keep going every which way. I chase rabbits. That's why when I preach, I use a manuscript. Otherwise, I'd never get to the point. I'd chase every rabbit in the county. But you get these different whiskey expressions. You have the same whiskey, 100% Texas blue corn. They mash it in the same way. They distill it the same way. They put it in the same kind of barrels. One ages for a year, and they draw it off and bottle it and sell it, and it's delicious whiskey. I've had bourbon that wasn't as good as this corn whiskey. It's not very complex. The baby blue isn't. It's a single grain mash bill. It doesn't age long, and it ages in barrels that aren't going to give up as much flavor and color, and it's still delicious. Then they take the same whiskey, what they didn't pull off for the baby blue, they save for the true blue. Now, this true blue is single barrel. Not all the true blue is, I don't believe. I could be wrong. Which means it all come from one barrel. Everything in the bottle was one barrel instead of batching 20 or 50 or 100 barrels or however many it might be. And I need to maybe do a video on small batch. I'm not going to go into it here. I'll just tell you the term small batch means whatever a particular distiller wants it to mean. There's no legally defined meaning. Even the distillers haven't got together and defined it for you. But you get the same whiskey. In one bottle, it's 12 years. In the other, it's 3.5. In one bottle, it's multiple barrels batched together. The other, it's one barrel. And these are different expressions of the whiskey. I don't have multiple bottles to show you, so I won't even pull out my 101. But you got Wild Turkey. There's an 80 proof Wild Turkey. I think it's actually 81 proof. Then there's Wild Turkey 101, which is 101 proof, and that's the popular one. You got Wild Turkey Rare Breed, which, if I'm not mistaken, is a single barrel. You've got Wild Turkey Long Branch, which Matthew McConaughey, the actor, who's a Texan, by the way. Oh, I've never seen him act. He may be a crap actor. He may be a crap human being. But he's a Texan, and I take note of that. He helped develop the Long Branch. These are all the same basic whiskey, but they're doing different things to them. One, they're proofing down to 80. The other, they're proofing down to 101. One is, as I say, if I remember right, the Rare Breed is a single barrel. One, they're given some mesquite smoke influence. Or you take Maker's Mark. They've got their basic bourbon. They've got 46. They've got various new expressions they're coming out with, where they're trying different stave profiles, different ages, different proofs. It's all the same mash bill. It's all the same whiskey, but they're doing different things to it to produce different expressions. Or Four Roses, they've got the yellow label, although it doesn't have a yellow label anymore. It's more tan. It's their basic bourbon. There's Four Roses Small Batch. There's Four Roses Small Batch Limited Edition. Four Roses Single Barrel. Now, these are not all the same mash bill. Four Roses has 2 mash bills and 5 yeast strains, which you combine them together, all the combinations, you get 10 recipes. All 10 go into the basic bourbon. 4, if I remember correctly, go into the small batch. 1 goes into the single barrel. But they're different expressions of Four Roses bourbon. And that's what a whiskey expression is. It's something that differs in some way, whether age, mash bill, proof, how many barrels in a batch, what have you. Some whiskeys, they'll have a small batch expression. They might dump 1,000 barrels at a time for their basic whiskey and 100 barrels at a time for their small batch. They might have a barrel proof release, which is this: when they dump the barrels, they don't proof them down. The regular, they might proof down to 90. But when they do this barrel proof, they don't proof them down. It's whatever it comes out of the barrel. You got single barrels, which is 1 barrel. And so when you're coming into it, it might seem bewildering. And as a good rule of thumb, start with the basic expression. Now, that's not always necessarily a great idea. Jack Black isn't the best way to start drinking whiskey. I take it back. I have had the Gentleman Jack from Jack Daniels. It's better than Jack Black. I'll give it that. But say you're going to go into Knob Creek. Well, the basic expression is the 9-year. It's 100 proof, so if you're brand new, that might be a little bit of more proof than you really want. But you got your 9-year, then they've got a 12-year, they got a 15-year, they've got, I believe there's a single barrel, I think there's a barrel proof, but you start with the basic one, the 9-year. If you like that, then you can spend more money on these other bottles that are more expensive, knowing that you like the basic and any change in it probably isn't going to be awful. Or you like You like baby blue. You start, you want to try the corn whiskey. This is the best corn whiskey on earth as far as I know. I've never tasted a better, and granted that I don't have tons of experience. But you find you like baby blue. Okay, you can afford it. It's on the shelf. You try the true blue. But you do the baby blue first to see if you like the basic corn whiskey. When you find out you do, then you spend the baby blue's $39.99. If you like the $40 whiskey, then you buy the $58 whiskey. You don't buy the 58 first. If you're going to find out you don't like it, you don't want to be out 58, pretty much $60. It's better to go for something $20 cheaper. And I have rambled. I have been all over the map, but I hope I have gotten across the basic idea of what whiskey expressions are. That's the whole point of this channel, to give you basics for people who are beginners. And if this has helped you, I'm glad of it. Please, and I don't say this every time. Some of these people, they have a spiel they rattle off. I don't. But if you like the channel, please subscribe to it, so every time I post something, which is once a week, Sunday or Monday, when I post something new, you'll know it. If you like the video, please click the like button, and feel free to leave comments. Now, if you're just a belligerent idiot, I'm not going to mess with you. But if you disagree with me in a rational, calm, polite, courteous manner, I'll be willing to discuss with you all day long and all night too. But anyway, I hope this was helpful to you. I never know how to end the video, so I'm just going to click the button and cut the camera off.